shit in your head.
Right. And then it's there, and it's there. Once it's there, it's there. And then, but I always believe that after 5 weeks, people start inventing things simply to invent things, either to entertain themselves, the people they're playing opposite, or they just start going, you know what? I think I can get a laugh on this if I do this, which then throws off the whole balance of the thing.
I think if you don't like the thrill of it every night, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you can't, like, who did I talk to? David Harbour. I talked to him. He said one of the funniest things about, like, you know, that panic, you know, right before you go on stage, where you don't think you know your lines. Like, and he says he's like 5 seconds before he goes on stage, he's like, "Someone give me a fucking script." You know?
I still have dreams. I have dreams.
Yeah.
I had one the other night about going on stage and not knowing my lines and not, you know, or like I'm not dressed properly, or, you know, it's just pathetic. Still.
Oh my God. It's haunting.
Yeah. It is, but I know I'll do it again. I want to do it again. It just has to be the right circumstance, you know.
Now, I watched the new movie Supernova.
Oh.
And I enjoyed it. It was heavy to me.
Yeah.
How well do you know Colin?
Well, I know him really well. We've known each other for 20 years.
Oh, really? So you guys were friends going into this a long time.
Yeah. I asked him to do it. The director sent me the script. I loved it. I thought, well, the only person I can think of the appropriate age, who's a brilliant actor and one of my closest, is Colin. So I asked him, I slipped it to him, and he read it. He goes, "My God, it's beautiful." I said, "I know." And then we did it. And then we switched roles, because I was supposed to play the other role. He was supposed to play my role. And then
really?
Yeah. And then at one point, Colin said, "Stan, I think we should switch." And I said, you know, I've been thinking the same thing. Because every time I read it, I was like, something doesn't feel right. The rhythm, I don't know. I feel like I'm more comfortable saying, and Colin's the one who brought it up. Anyway, we told Harry, this poor director, who looked at us like, "Oh God, have I made a huge mistake?" You know, these two alta cacas coming going. We want to switch roles, and you know. By the way,
but he had both of you. What did he say?
He said, "All right, well, let's read it both ways." So we did just a few scenes, and it was very evident. We basically auditioned for Harry for the opposite roles.
So you play a couple, and you are in the beginning stages of Alzheimer's.
Yes. Well, little even,
even more so.
Yeah.
Like I thought that
early onset Alzheimer's. Yeah.
Early onset Alzheimer's. So what did you do to prepare for that as an actor? How did you define? Because like I think what was most interesting about your characterization of that was the fight against it. That, you know, the pride, you know, that occurs, you know, when somebody is, you know, because you were much further along than even you let on to the audience of me watching it. You know, you don't really know how far along you are until he, you know, looks at your writing, right?
Yeah. And that's the beauty of Harry's script. I mean, it was all there in the writing, really. And then Harry gave me his research, and I watched documentaries and read stuff about it. We met with a doctor who worked with people. And that was all I needed.
So what did you focus on, you know, to sort of drive the way your brain would work in the role? I mean, how did you do that for yourself?
It was really about, it's about absence, really. As we all get older, you walk into the pantry or you walk into the whatever room, and you go,
right,
why did I walk into this room?
Right.
Now, just take that and expound it.
What a terrible feeling.
Yeah. but then
be lost.
Yeah, suddenly you're looking at someone, or you're looking at, this was a particular kind of early onset where it affects the way you see. So if you look at a piece of paper with writing on it, you cannot discern what that writing is. So you have to figure it out.
Yeah, it's so sad and brutal, and like
It's
I don't
brutal.
they give away the sort of turn in the film. But I guess so, for you guys to play a couple, I mean, with all those years of friendship, I mean, it must have been interesting in terms of getting closer.
Yeah. Yes, it was. It wasn't what we expected.
In what sense? I mean, you guys are both straight guys.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like, hey pal, we're gonna kiss a little bit, and
But you feel safe with that person, right? Because you know them, because they're your best friend, one of your best
Right.
friends, and
and you're willing.
Yeah, I mean, he was more hirsute than I expected, but yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And did it bring you closer, or were you?
definitely.
Did you need a break? Did you need a break from each other?
No. It definitely brought us closer. We were close already, and then it just brought us closer.
Well, it is sort of a beautiful movie. I've seen a couple of films lately that kind of move at a pace that doesn't over-explain everything. And I thought that the way the script revealed the elements of the relationship and of the disease was very moving, and it's heavy. You wonder, like, I like the movie, but like when you make a film like that, as beautiful it is, it's so painfully sad, and you wonder, like, what is an audience supposed to do with that? And it's really just to appreciate the poetry of love, I guess.
Yeah, I think so, and also that I think part of the reason film or theater or any art form exists is, to hold the mirror up to life, but
Right.
But also, which means if you do that, an audience feels like they're not alone,
Yeah,
and
that's
and
right.
that there is an understanding, a universal understanding of love and loss. And I think particularly in this film, because it's not just a guy and a girl, a handsome guy and a pretty girl. It's like
Right.
two older guys.
Yeah.
The whole thing isn't what we would expect. And yet what what those people are experiencing is what everyone experiences. No matter what your gender, no matter what your sexual preference or orientation, doesn't matter. Political orientation, doesn't matter. Love is love, and loss is loss.
And one of those is guaranteed in life.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean I understand that, and also it does not culturally, we don't really acknowledge it as much as we should. That it's so common, losing people, losing your mind. I mean, it's like, and it's like when it happens to you, as it happened to you, with your wife, and like I lost somebody recently.
Yes, I know.
Really,
I'm sorry. Yes,
but that was the first time I like somebody that I loved, and like died tragically. Like but almost everyone experiences that.
Yes,
and you don't really know what to do with it, and people
No.
don't necessarily know what to do with it either.
no, and I think, listen, depending upon your situation, your socioeconomic situation, the country you're living in, you can experience that profound loss again and again and again, or rarely. I mean, if we look at Syria,
Right.
if you look at, I mean, that's happening every minute of every day, and the extreme loss.
I can't imagine.
Yeah, we can't imagine. We
You
lose
live in
our
a climate of it.
of a climate of loss.
And but like, it's interesting though that you bring up absence, because that's what, like, That's what becomes really hard to understand. Is that, somebody was here and now you live with their absence for the rest of your life. And it's almost active and it's always there.
Yeah.
That absence. Like you grieve, you move through things, your heart heals, your mind heals, maybe you move on. But like that absence is so profound because all possibilities are gone, It's,
which means that your heart doesn't heal, your mind doesn't heal, and that you don't move on.
Yeah.
You never do.
Well, then what happens? You mean you compartmentalize then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you have to in order to heal and move on.
Right.
But
yeah, you integrate it, you accept it. That old Jewish thing, the idea of may her memory be a blessing is really a great thing.
Yeah, that's beautifully put. Yeah,
it's like ultimately it's the only way you can look at it. You have to get past regrets or self-pity or any of that and just sort of like what a gift it was.
Yeah, how do people who went through the Holocaust, who were sent to Auschwitz, who lost children in Auschwitz, and then survived themselves, then went on to live their lives, have another family.
Yeah.
How and function fully. How? How do you lose a child? Not just lose a child, but lose a child in that way and continue your life.
I don't know. I guess what choice do you have?
You have a choice.
But who does that serve? Right.
Right. Yeah, I don't know.
It's interesting that, like, in your life as an actor, you've played some pretty real monsters.
Mm.
When you approach those roles, like even playing, Eichmann or the murderer in the what was that?
Lovely Bones. Yeah.
Lovely Bones. Do you have to detach your empathy entirely? I mean, how do you look at life through the eyes of those characters?
The only way you can look at it is that they were human beings. They're monsters. We think of them as monsters, but they were human beings.
Right.
Right? So there's... I talked about this recently with someone that playing Eichmann was, they found him in Argentina, right? Mossad got him in Argentina. The Mossad agent, had him in a room for a couple of days, and though he wasn't supposed to, he started talking to him and asked him a whole bunch of questions. He said, well, how could you kill all those people? How could you facilitate that? How could you? And he said, that was my job. That's what I was supposed to do.
Right.
And he said, well, what about the children? He said, no, I love children. And when they found him, he was playing with his children in his house in Argentina.
So he was able to detach because of ideology.
Yeah, and what he said was, he said, but yeah, you love children. He said, but what about all the children you sent to their deaths? He said, well, they were Jewish.
Right.
So what kind of mind is that?
Horrendous.
Right. So he cries talking about children, and then he justifies killing children by saying they're Jewish. Talk about a disconnect.
Well, that's the brain fuckery of, you see it here. It turns out it's a lot easier to make people think of other people as others.
Fucking
horrendous.
Yeah.
But I did want to say this before we go, is that I've watched, I have a guilty, The Devil Wears Prada is a strange guilty pleasure of mine that I've somehow watched
too, yeah,
so many times.
Yeah.
And I just love that movie. I love those women. I loved you in it. That
Thanks.
Must have been the greatest time.
It was, sometimes you do a movie and you're like,
yeah. Yeah.
You want to just, you're like, when's my last day? And with that movie, when I didn't want it to end. When it ended, when my work ended, I was just sort of hanging around, and we were having wine and stuff on the set with David and everybody, and then